it's part of our limitations, and calling attention to that doesn't necessarily make it easier to see those things, but a lot of my art speaks to that issue of the limits of our understanding or perception.
We should be good.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
On that side. We're good on this side. We gotta lose a half inch on that side. Number uno. So, in college I studied design, and so I evolved to be a product designer and did a lot of furniture, home products, lighting, a pretty broad range of product design. And then also later, probably in the 90s or late 90s or 2000s, evolved to a broader spectrum involved with marketing and branding. And then I turned 69, and I really didn't want to, or I didn't see how much longer I could be doing that type of product development and running a firm. I had as many as I think 30 people in the firm, but I had been doing sculpture and wall reliefs for many years, but never exhibited them and never sold any. They were all in in people's offices, in my office. So everybody had a sculpture in their office. Someone came into the office and they saw all this stuff on the walls, and they said, who did that? And I said, well, I do those to fill up the offices. They said, well, you should talk to a gallery. So I did. I went down to a gallery on the south side and showed them some stuff, and I said, I'm thinking maybe of winding down a little bit, and thought you might have some advice and so forth. He said, if you can do that, I'll give you a solo show. This was, I guess, in May. He said, I want to come over to your studio or your office and see those. We'll see what you've done, and if you can do 30 like that, I'll give you a solo show in November. So he came over and he said, okay, good, you're on. And that was a turning point. Like half the pieces in that show sold, and I said to myself, that could be a new adventure. So I started to contract our firm, and eventually within a year I was doing sculpture. And it was an evolution. I didn't understand the art market. I didn't have any connections or didn't have any experience, so it was a rapid learning process to understand how to become a sculptor and what that involved from the standpoint of fabrication and having shows and catalogs and so forth. In my art, there is hidden spaces. Most of what's going on here is actually hidden. that idea that you're seeing just the front of something when most of what's going on is intentionally concealed or not obvious is a kind of outgrowth of that understanding of simultaneous realities or the limits of our understanding. One of the things about magic is that there's two simultaneous realities. There's what the audience sees and what is really going on. The magic terminology for that is the effect, which is what the audience sees, and the method, which is what the magician is doing. And that has a lot of meaning, so to speak, in a broader context, which is to say that we think we're seeing the world the way that it really is, or with all that it is, or we think we know another person, even if they're our parent or our spouse. But we find that what we are seeing is only part of the story, and that there's this whole other thing that's going on in the background, and whether that's in marketing or it's in politics or it's just our knowledge of ourselves or others, we're only seeing a small part of that reality, and much of what's going on is behind the scenes. So a lot of my art does that, and I'll demonstrate with a magic trick if you'd like. So this is an old trick. So you take a piece of rope and you cut it in half, and then, and you tie it back together, and it's tied together, and then you say some magic words, and presto, boom, it's one rope again. So what the audience sees in that example is the effect. Obviously, you weren't seeing the whole story. And that idea that you're seeing just the front of something when most of what's going on is intentionally concealed or not obvious is a kind of outgrowth of that understanding of simultaneous realities or the limits of our understanding.